Welcome to this week's episode of the Last Night's Game podcast. I'm your host, Amy Butch on Siegfried. And today we are talking all about college basketball because the start of the season that ends in March Madness is here and upon us. And here to talk all about college basketball is the expert in this stuff, and certainly not me, Scott. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on today. We're getting you ready to embark on this long road trip that ends in March Madness.
I mean,
And it has to start somewhere, and the madness starts now and culminates in March when everyone gets their brackets and thinks that they're going to pick all the winners,
yeah, no one ever does that.
when in reality, you're not,
No, you're not.
no
Yeah,
matter
it's
how
a
much you watch.
I mean, we have just so much going on in the world of sports right now.
Mhm.
It feels like there's no room for college basketball, which I'd be intrigued to look at the ratings and see how they almost like hockey stick after football season's over.
Yes, and I don't know, it feels too hot where we are for college basketball to start, so I think that's also leading into it. And football and hockey and baseball and basket NBA. It's
There's
tough
a
to
lot
fit everything in, to be honest with you.
there's a lot going on. So if you are not a sports fan, at least you know that there's a lot going on, and that's the one conversation starter you can have with any sports fan is there's a lot happening the month of October. We just passed the sports equinox, which is when we had all major professional sports leagues in the U.S. men's, I should say, playing on the same day, and so that was Major League Baseball, NBA game. We had a Major League Soccer playoffs. We had NHL games and we had NFL games all happening on the same day. So that referred to as the sports equinox. So just little tidbits for everyone,
There you go. A bit overwhelming for most folks.
for those of you who watch all the sports.
Yes.
For those of us who like it as background noise, it's great. There's always something to do. There's always something to watch.
And streaming has made it hard to watch all at once now. I think we had this conversation because
Yes,
we were going to do a post about watching all the things and we could not because half of the stuff was streaming. So also very relatable to those who don't watch sports and stream Netflix and Peacock.
exactly. There's so much happening. So let's talk a little bit about college basketball. So if someone is an NBA fan, there's some differentiators between
Mhm.
college basketball and the NBA. The men's game, first of all, is two 20-minute halves.
For really no logical reason whatsoever, yes, it is two 20-minute halves, as to where every other basketball league you'll watch, even the women, is 4 quarters. So it really doesn't make much sense, but they've decided that that's what they're going to do, and they're sticking with it.
Yeah, it is interesting that you watch this and you're like, wait a minute, why? Why?
Mhm. There's no logical
Your
reason whatsoever.
childhood basketball was not that way either.
No, nothing is, and it doesn't prepare you for moving on to the NBA or playing overseas or G League or anything really.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So that's one thing. So you can just tell the difference, and so to say, is it this first or second half versus the
Yes,
first, second, third, or fourth quarter? So there's
correct.
something for you.
Yes.
Now, as we dive into this college basketball season, what's your go-to conversation starter with college basketball fans?
Things you deal with every day: time, travel, time zones, and expenses.
Yeah, that is a huge piece in the world of sports. Now, talk us through because we've seen the conference shift. So there was a big, I guess that was last season. We had this big shift of teams that people have probably heard about, where teams
Mhm,
went all over different conferences, and there was this big sort of almost like a chess game. And what people may not understand is like that. Not just we talk about it in the perspective of college football, but
mhm.
that impacts every single sport that college has, and
As
that makes
college
for
foot
some
Yeah,
intensity.
it's like college football rules all, they make all the money. So, with conference realignment, college football, you only have to travel once a week, and you can fly across the country and be back, really no problem, but with I think college basketball gets hit probably the hardest because you have teams traveling. We have ACC teams like Stanford in the AC Stanford on the West Coast and the ACC on the East Coast. So they're going out to play North Carolina and schools like that, traveling multiple time zones. And they kind of get hit the hardest when it comes to accommodations and adjusting to life, honestly.
Right, well, and you think about, um, football games tend to start granted, they kinda just you do have early games, but
Mhm.
they won't start till 11 on a Saturday, typically in the local time zone, but That's not the 6 a.m. that you might get somewhere else. And Hawaii, I'm sorry, you're always hosed.
Yeah, if you're in Hawaii, you're always kind of behind the 8 ball in that regard, but college basketball, they have random start times all season, so it's not set like you mentioned with college football. You have, like, the morning, afternoon, then evening slate. College basketball is just all over the place, so it's pretty hard to prepare your team to play at 6 a.m. local time if you're USC or UCLA going back to Rutgers for an
Right.
early tip. So how do you practice to get your team ready for that? It's nearly impossible.
Right. And I mean, these are college students. They're not used to getting up probably at the butt crack of dawn, anyways.
No, and they have to study too, so
Right.
also a challenge.
There's that. Well, you sent me this stat that I thought was really interesting. The
Mhm.
ACC, which is the Atlantic Coast Conference, and
Yes.
the Big Ten, both men's and women's basketball teams had won just 30.6% of their games when traveling from the Eastern time zone to the Pacific time zone or vice versa. So, like, what a
Yes.
shift. I mean, that's only
Mhm.
winning 30%. So, you're basically signing up to go win 30% of your games, and especially if you're Stanford and you're always going that way.
Yes, Stanford and Cal, I believe, are in the ACC together, so there's really no one they have on their West Coast to play other than each other, so they're flying all the way across country all conference season, and they're kind of like the sacrificial lamb to college football, honestly. And
Yeah.
30%, like, yeah, it's not just us in our opinions, the 30% is a massive factor.
Yeah. If you told me I had to show up to work and I would only win 30% of the time, I'd be like, never mind.
It's pretty tough
I
to
need to get a new
get
job.
excited for that, yeah, and you have to play at 6 AM local time, right? Or
Yeah.
where you're from.
Well, and you I mean, you talked about, we talked about expenses too. You think about the travel, the time,
Mhm.
all of that, but the expense of traveling, and then if you're doing maybe a road trip while you're out there, you're housing, players in coastal cities, like, it's just all those things, and players the kids have gotten more expensive because
They
we've
have.
dived into the name, image, likeness era, and they're expensive.
And not just kids that you're raising, your toddlers and your middle schoolers, they're expensive too. These college kids have gotten significantly more expensive in the NIL era because unfortunately, you have to be able to pay to get the players now, and they're gonna go where the money is.
Now, you were telling me about BYU and how they've kind of come out of nowhere with a lot of money.
Yes. BYU has tapped into some unlimited resources apparently, and they were able to pay the top incoming freshmen a ridiculous amount of money to pick them over any other program in the country. AJ Dibanasta at $7.5 million for an
To come
incoming to come play basketball for likely one season because that's the rules. You have to play one season out of high school to get to the NBA. So they're going all in. All their chips are in the middle of the table, and that's a lot of money to pay a player for who's 17, 18 years old.
Right. You're resting your laurels on somebody who's only been able to drive a car for a year.
Yeah, and BYU obviously has some higher standards than most colleges, so it's very interesting. It'll be a great social experiment to see how this goes.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Um, Speaking of, like, players, I'm just with let's you have a couple of players coming into the league that people may know of their famous dads, most notably Bryce James, LeBron James' son, who's
Yes,
going to play at Arizona, which is your alma mater. Talk to me
it
about
is.
is
So,
is is Bryce worth the hype?
I mean, we'll always have to wait and see. They can always develop. Coming in, it seems like he's probably going to be more on the bench, maybe a red shirt season, which means they'll practice and play in practice, but they won't be able to play in games, but it'll give him more eligibility on the back end.
Okay,
So
so
for someone who
it
needs
doesn't
to
count if
develop, yes. Yeah, so someone who needs to develop, it's a better way to do it rather than have him just sit there on the bench and get ridiculed by all these talking heads that he's LeBron James' son, so he should be the star player. So it's
yeah,
probably the best situation for him.
it's a growth year, if you
It
will.
is, and we'll probably see LeBron out a lot of games, I'm guessing, especially
Well
since he's injured.
well, and that'll be interesting too because, there's a conversation of will LeBron play with both of his sons,
Yes.
and that pushes his career back 1 year as well.
Yeah, and he's getting up there in age, so he's trying to hold on probably for this to happen. We'll see. I would say it is unlikely after this year that he would be playing with both sons.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Then we have Kiyan Anthony, who's the son of Carmelo Anthony, and we have, 2 brothers, Carlos
Twins.
Boozer twins.
Twins,
Yeah,
yes.
who are the kids of Carlos Boozer, who played, at Duke. and played in the NBA for 13 years. So it'll be interesting to see. It's kind of fascinating to see these kids follow. I don't feel like you had as much of that. And all of a sudden, you're seeing a big flux in that in football as well as basketball, baseball. We've seen two people in the World Series
Uh,
had dads who played in baseball. So it's interesting that they've gone that route of the same as their fathers.
and they're both going, the Boozer and Anthony children are going to their father's alma maters where they won national championships. So
Oh,
the standard
no
is very
pressure.
high there, no pressure whatsoever.
That is
So
really interesting.
yeah,
I
that's if you want to make a name for yourself and go somewhere else, they decided to face it full force and challenge their father's legacies.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm not sure that'd be my choice, but that I'm also not an athlete, so there's that.
But you're an athlete in a different perspective.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I train hard
There you go.
and have no skills. If you don't have a team to cheer for this week, who would you cheer for as the season starts?
More March Madness.
Okay, talk to me about that.
March Madness is obviously the tournament at the end of the year, which everyone gets into for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And we're currently at 68 teams, but money rules all. And it looks like they're going to expand to 76 teams after this year. So we're getting more March Madness after this season, most likely for money
Well,
and
that'll
ratings.
that'll be I mean, obviously, we just talked about them being expensive, but that'll be
Yes,
interesting because will they be able to cram it all in?
they'll find a way, I think, because you have was the first four that plays like that Tuesday, Wednesday. So they'll find a way to fit it in and get more on TV. And your true TV channel that you only watch once a year that shows Impractical Joker reruns will
Yeah,
be more crowded with random basketball games.
that just
And
means
it's a lot of debate. All the old school people don't want to expand, but once we do, the only thing that's constant is change in college sports as we've seen. So
right.
people are going to complain, but once it happens, no one's going to care. It's just going to be more basketball to pay attention to and pick losers.
Yeah, I feel like there's been so much change in college sports in the past couple of
Yes.
years that like it trumps what's been happening previously. But I mean, adding in 12 more teams is
Mhm.
six more matchups. That's a big deal. And like you said, that's just another six for me to lose when picking.
Yeah.
But it's a big deal.
But it gets maybe some small schools that never get any shine whatsoever, gets them on TV, and you can get hot for 3 weeks and make it to the Final Four national championship. We see it every year. So who knows? Some school that never had a chance get hot and put their school on the map and increase applicants and get more money for the school.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, TV ratings. I mean, in
Mhm.
2024, we saw great TV ratings for the women's tournament. I mean, basically because of Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and
Yes.
they actually eclipsed the men's final that year by about 4
Yes.
million viewers. That was the first time that had happened. But last year, we still saw huge TV numbers for both, a significant increase for both of them, with the men's Final Four bringing in about 15.5 million viewers and the women's about 8.5. Last year's champion for the women was UConn, who's won a whole bunch. So I
Yes.
can't help but wonder if that impacted the way that those numbers were, because I know a lot of people who watched it, but
Mhm.
also like if someone's going, it's kind of like I mean, South Carolina's also amazing. So it's not, they've also won a lot. So I guess there was no surprise, no underdog there really.
No, and to put it in perspective, that's a massive amount of viewership. Like, I think
Mhm.
we got spoiled by the year before seeing those numbers so high that, I mean, 8.5 is still crazy to think about. If you go back 5 years, who would have ever thought it'd be that high?
Well, 5 years ago, the women's tournament couldn't even call themselves March Madness.
So we've come a very far, very, very far away for these women. And when you get big programs like South Carolina, UConn, although they win a lot, that's what people want to see.
I guess
The
that's
blue
true.
bloods. They want to see the blue bloods in there.
I guess that's yeah, it's kinda like the World Series. I mean, you wanna see a Yankees or a Dodgers or a Cubs or somebody just to bring in
Yes,
those bigger markets and the bigger fan base too.
absolutely. Or the Blue Jays, where you get a whole country.
That's also true. There's that.
So,
So,
although there's no Canadian teams in March Madness.
no,
So,
there are not. We've talked about this in a previous podcast, but I kinda wanted to drop this in here, and I don't really have a spot to put it in here. But we're talking about states banning some of the prop betting in college
mhm,
sports, and that's been a real issue. There's been issues with harassment of college players.
mhm.
Talk to me about, A, what a prop bet is, and what does that mean when they're banning How does that work?
And this has kind of taken mainstream media by storm recently. Even if you don't watch sports, you probably have heard of the gambling scandals in the NBA, and they're making millions of dollars. And where these kids, some of them aren't making millions, but very few are. So a prop bet would be over 10 points for a player, which
Okay,
in
Scott's
a
gonna go
single
out
game,
for more than 10 points tonight.
yes, it has nothing to do with the outcome of the game, but more of an individual performance. So it would be like over 10 points. And if you were compromised, you could easily go under 10 points, as we've seen with Terry Rozier in the NBA. And if somebody gets to you and you owe someone money, it could be bad. So I think there's about 15 states now that have banned props on college students, which is probably for the best. That way there's no pressure. No one's yelling at them because they only scored 9 points or
Right.
missed a free throw at the end. And then everyone criticizes and thinks that it's fixed. So it's good. And there's a lot of states that don't even let you bet on college teams in that state.
Oh, that's smart. That is actually really smart. So this is saying that this isn't going to be like a bet on an individual. You could still bet on whether like UNLV would beat BYU,
You could,
but
yes, if you're in
you
any good
can't bet
state.
on. Okay.
And it takes a lot of pressure off the individual kid
Oh,
because
sure.
if you're 17, 18 years trying to, survive and be in college and just playing, hopefully get to the NBA, you don't have to worry about people yelling at you for missing a late free throw or a 3-pointer.
Right, absolutely. Well, and there was something I heard about in the past couple of days is that the NCAA is delaying a rule that would have
Mhm.
allowed college athletes and and staff to bet on professional sports, which just
I
also doesn't seem like the world's best. It
No,
seems like it could be a very slippery slope given all the things and all the insights and all of that.
yeah, just opening more doors for bad things to happen, honestly. So
Yeah,
it's better just to keep it deregulated for now.
yeah. Now, if you want to fire up a sports fan this week, talk about.
The G League.
Okay, now explain to me what the G League is.
So the G League was created by the NBA for players who didn't necessarily want to go to college, but they have to be a year out of college to make it to the NBA. So they created a path where kids could get paid like professionals, live like a professional life for a year or two, and then go to the NBA to avoid the college route. As we know, not everyone likes school. Not everyone's good at school. It's nothing bad, but some people just don't want to go to school.
Mhm.
And now, with everyone being paid NIL, NCAA has allowed kids that opted to go to the G League originally and skip college to come back and go to college. So
Well,
it's like a total 180 priority shift in just the thinking. So it's interesting. A lot of coaches are not thrilled that this is happening just because these kids were playing professional already and now they're coming
yeah.
back into the college ranks.
Yeah, it's an interest. I'm sure that's an interesting mindset too when it
Mhm.
comes down to that of just shifting from being on your own, sort of doing your thing,
Yes.
now you're back under the microscope of a school, and you're responsible day to day for homework and all the things that you haven't had to do.
Yes. So we'll see how it goes. They could axe this rule after this year. I don't know. We'll see. But NCAA does some very odd things that don't make sense a lot, and this just seemed unnecessary.
Yeah, I think you're like we kinda said, like, everyone's just flexing on stuff right now, and it's like, Wait, should we pause?" But it's been really interesting too, though. You look at the number, especially on the men's side, the NBA draft had the lowest number of early entrants in a decade with only 106 players declaring for the draft overall. It's a
And
huge decrease, and that's because I'm guessing because they can get paid just as much, if not more, in college.
yeah, most of these guys who would be later draft picks in the second round weren't going to make a lot of money, not really guaranteed money. So why not stay in college another year or two and get paid and just kind of hang out and go to class sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So we talked about some of the players to watch on the men's side, some of those the Suns coming up through the
Uh-huh.
system. What about the WNBA? We have prospects looking to declare for the draft. We have big names this year to keep an eye on. We no longer have Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese, but we do have Lauren Betts and Az Fudd, Michaela Blakes, Madison Booker. We have some big names to keep an eye on.
And one of your favorite players at Oklahoma,
Reagan Beers.
Reagan Beers. I know
Mhm.
your husband really enjoys that.
Yeah, my husband's name
Yeah,
is Reagan for those who don't know, and it's not that he drinks beer, but I mean, if your name was Reagan
Reagan
Beers,
beers, you'd probably have to drink some beers.
yeah, or at least cheer for her.
There we go.
Yep,
Yeah, so there's still there's big names on the women's side too, and it's kind of interesting. We'll see what happens with the WNBA and their CBA. So their collective
collective
bargaining.
bargaining agreement, yeah.
As of now, they have not reached any type of agreement. Seems like they're not even close. And the deadline was October 31st. So there's a very good chance that WNBA could be locked out and affecting all these athletes' decisions moving forward.
Yeah, that'll
And we
be really
saw
interesting.
and we saw like AZ Fudd could have come out and gone in WNBA, but opted to stay back in college. So
Well, but some of them may be out of eligibility too.
eventually, yes,
Yeah,
unfortunately, some you're going to run out of eligibility.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, is there any notes on any of those ladies of that we need to pay attention to?
Well, you might know AZ Fudd's girlfriend is Paige Beckers, who went to UConn, won the championship last year, and ended up being Rookie of the Year with the Dallas Wings. So there's a great connection there if you're a WNBA fan.
So someone to keep hey, if you need someone to bet on, need someone to follow, there you go.
There you go. Yes, and she's overcome a lot of injuries, so it's kind of a resiliency
Oh, there you
would be
go.
the word I would use for her.
I like that. I like that story. Well, thank you for sharing your college basketball knowledge with us. The season obviously starts this week and runs all the way through really April. Typically, is the end of March Madness. So
Yes.
follow us for all things college basketball and any insight that you might need. Let us know.